Now my most hated season 5 episode, this time most hated season 6 episode. It's not the Splinter, Truth or Square season 6 episode, Truth or Square, or even the card. It's this episode, Pets or Pests. It's this episode, Pets or Pests. I find odd because no one really talks about this. Oh, it has elements of all three of the aforementioned episodes. But believe it or not, my main problem here is the story is extreme. It ends with them rolling into some brambles.
Will you ever learn how to use those doors?
Anyway, they find what they think is a ball. It's not. It's actually to the major problem with this episode. And that problem is the worm. There are two ways to worm. It's a vile vermin that needs to die, or it's a misunderstood creature that's hated by the world around it. The episode kinda tries to do both. For a second of looking at it, he likes it, and the worm likes SpongeBob back. So I'm going to see this worm as a dog, which is further evidenced when Gary doesn't get along with it whatsoever, and the worm barks like crazy. Keep that in mind. I act worm is a dog, which is further evidenced when Gary doesn't get along with it like crazy. Keep that in mind. So Gary going crazy and attacking SpongeBob. I'm going to say another problem with this episode is the I actually kind of see it as a pug in reality. A dog that has a reputation. SpongeBob tries to get Gary and the worms get along. But that ends with Gary and the worms get along. But that ends with Gary going crazy and attacking SpongeBob. I'm going to say another problem with this episode is that the worm does absolutely nothing wrong, hideous, and that sends some very odd implications. And to tell you the truth, gross. Even more so with this episode airing after the Splinter. Patrick leaves because all the reasons, I guess. With SpongeBob screaming some more. SpongeBob lets the worm. Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the elements of a pal for Gary that first showed up here. But I already covered that episode. I'm done with that episode. The next morning, the worm is in labor. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that this was written by the same guy who wrote Ren. The next morning, the worm is howling in pain because it's in labor. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that this was written by the same guy who wrote Ren Seeks Help. Some certain themes in his work. So the worm gave birth to a few puppies. The answer is no. He's a cat and the worm is a dog. They fight. It's kind of natural, at least in cartoons. Does this mean they go boot to someplace far away and never be seen by anyone here again? So SpongeBob wants to find homes for each and every one of those infants. Anyone here again? So SpongeBob wants to find homes for each and every one of those. I actually have seen a dog give live birth, and newborn puppies look nothing like. Now, if you're wondering, I actually have seen a dog give live birth, and newborn puppies look nothing like the cute thing for here. But that does. The first half at least had somewhat of a plot. The second half kind of. SpongeBob asks Squidward to take some. Hey. Alright, here's the episode's main problem. I really don't. They've done nothing wrong except look a little off. Disgusting and repulsive. I would get to everyone's favorite part of this episode, the doorbell gags. Then we get to every episode, the doorbell gag. 30 seconds. I'm not even kidding. He pushes the doorbell in real time for 33 on this show. The only way that it could possibly be alarm clock sound effect. Oh yeah, on a tangent, alarm clock sound effect. It just automatically takes your viewers out of the experience. Mrs. Puff to inflate, and that ends the scene. Which did absolutely reason. SpongeBob knows Larry, but Larry doesn't know SpongeBob. Nitpicking or whatever. But how the hell does Larry not know realistic alarm clock sound effect? It just automatically takes your knows Larry, but Larry doesn't know SpongeBob. But how the hell does Larry not know who the hell SpongeBob is? I mean, you could make. They also talk like they're old acquaintances. Worms decides to take them and eat them because they're live protein. And what the first of all, Worms and SpongeBob are dogs. They already made that comparison. Dogs don't actually look like dogs. They're worms, and that's what sparks alive. I mean, what the actual fuck? What's to stop Larry from going down to the animal shelter and this is what you're directly stating. They're not implications at all. This is what you're directly stating. SpongeBob. Let down your. I don't really know why they're friends. A truck is can't be all three. You have to pick one and stick with it. Apparently, they're valuable enough to have SpongeBob through a payphone and says that he's late for work. Actually, every scene adds SpongeBob more and more sad or desperate. The plot doesn't know what to do with itself, except, I guess, end. Our garbage out. Then they're considered vermin. This scene was